Today we're hearing from Canto 3, Chapter 24, Text 13. And it says, sons ought to render service to their father exactly to this extent. One should obey the command of his father or spiritual master with due deference, saying, yes, sir. This word deference means to be surrendered or be, let's say, obedient. Look that word up, deference. Deference. DER.
Humble submission and respect.
Yeah, humble submission and respect. Yes. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Two words in this verse are very important. One is pitari, and another word is guru. The son or disciple should accept the words of his spiritual master and father without hesitation. Whatever the father and his spiritual master order should be taken without argument. Yes, there should be no instance in which the disciple or the son says, this is not correct. I cannot carry it out. When he says that, he is fallen. The father and the spiritual master are on the same platform because a spiritual master is the second father. The higher classes are called Dvija, voice-born. Whenever there is the question of birth, there must be a father. The first birth is made possible by the actual father, and the second birth is made possible by the spiritual master. Sometimes the father and the spiritual master may be the same man, and sometimes they are different men. In any case, the order of the father or the order of the spiritual master must be carried out without hesitation, with an immediate yes. There should be no argument. That is real service to the Father and to the spiritual master. Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur has stated that the order of the spiritual master is the life and soul of the disciples. A man cannot separate his life from his body. A disciple cannot separate the order of the spiritual master from his life. If a disciple follows the instruction of the spiritual master in that way, he is sure to become perfect. This is confirmed in the Upanishad. The import of Vedic instruction is revealed automatically only to one who has implicit faith in the supreme personality of Godhead and in his spiritual master. One may be materially considered an illiterate man, but if he has faith in the spiritual master as well as in the supreme personality of Godhead, then the meaning of spiritual revelation is immediately manifested before him. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay, so this is a very nice purport. And this is explaining the duties of a bona fide son. And it says, sons ought to render service to their father exactly to this extent. One should obey the command of his father or spiritual master with due deference, saying, yes, sir. All right. Those are two very, let's say, heavy words. Yes, sir. You notice there's no question of no, sir. It's only yes, sir. So that should be our uh, culture of never saying no, sir, to the spiritual master or to the father. Whatever the father and the spiritual master order should be taken without argument. Yes, there should be no instance in which the disciple or the son says, "This is not correct. I cannot carry it out." When he says that, he has fallen. The father and the spiritual master are on the same platform because a spiritual master is the second father. The higher classes are called Dvija, twice born. Whenever there is a question of birth, there must be a father. The first birth is made possible by the actual father, and the second birth is made possible by the spiritual master. Sometimes the father and the spiritual master may be the same man, and sometimes they are different men. In any case, the order of the father or the order of the spiritual master must be carried out without hesitation, with an immediate yes. There should be no argument. That is real service to the Father and to the spiritual master. This is really, very uh, explicit, uh, let's say, knowledge. And are we ready to follow this? This is the question we have to make in our life. Are we ready to follow the words of the spiritual master or the Father with implicit faith? That is important. So we can see in the case of Prabhupada, he followed his guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, with implicit faith. Whatever his guru wanted, he would do. And did Prabhupada spend a lot of time with his guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur? No, he did not spend a lot of time. He spent some time, but not a lot of time. But the few times that he did follow his guru's, let's say, in a personal company, he benefited tremendously from it. And his heart and soul was dedicated to satisfying his guru's desires. So, what were his desires? Well, the first time they met, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur told Prabhupada, "Oh, you are educated in English. You should preach in the English speaking world." And the last time there was a letter, his guru again emphasized Prabhupada should preach in the English speaking world. So that's what Prabhupada did. And because he strictly followed his guru, who told him, well, if you ever have any money, you should print books. That's what Prabhupada did. He printed many millions of books. So it says here in this verse, the first birth is made possible by the actual father, and the second birth is made possible by the spiritual master. Sometimes the father and the spiritual master may be the same man, and sometimes they're different men. In any case, the order of the father or the order of the spiritual master must be carried out without hesitation. Once Prabhupada was married, and then he began to speak to his father, and he said, "I know I'm married, but I don't like my wife. So please give me permission so I can marry another wife." And its father said, "No, don't do that." And although Prabhupada didn't like that, he did what his father said. He didn't disobey what his father said. And that was good advice. It was very good advice. And his father's point was, look, if you don't like your wife, you won't be attached to her at the moment of death. So it's better just to stick with this wife and not have a wife that you're attached to. Well, that was good advice also. This way, at the moment of death, he wouldn't think of his wife and then take birth as a woman in the next life. Now, a wife attached to her husband, she'll take birth as a man in the next life. But a man who's attached to his wife, he'll he'll take birth as a woman in his next life. And someone who's attached to Krishna will go back to the spiritual world. So this attachment to the wife, or the wife's attachment to the husband. Well, if a wife is attached to her husband, she'll get the body of a man in her next life, which is good. But if a man is attached to his wife, then he'll take birth as a woman in his next life. That's not good. Okay, so, and Prabhupada says here, the first birth is made possible by the actual father, and the second birth is made possible by the spiritual master. Sometimes the father and the spiritual master may be the same man, and sometimes they are different men. In any case, the order of the father or the order of the spiritual master must be carried out without hesitation, with an immediate yes. There should be no argument. That is real service to the father and to the spiritual master. Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura has stated that the order of the spiritual master is the life and soul of the disciple. As a man cannot separate his life from his body, a disciple cannot separate the order of the spiritual master from his life. If a disciple follows the instruction of the spiritual master in that way, he is sure to become perfect. This is confirmed in the Upanishad. The import of Vedic instruction is revealed automatically only to one who has implicit meaning complete faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and in the spiritual master. One may be materially considered an illiterate man, but if he has faith in the spiritual master as well as in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the meaning of scriptural revelation is immediately manifested before him. Well, these are very important statements, and we should follow this. There should be no argument, Prabhupada says. That is real service to the Father and to the spiritual master. Okay, so when we think about this, you can see how Srila Prabhupada is very, let's say, emphatically explaining what is the real principles of Krishna consciousness. One has to be very, let's say, connected to the spiritual master, who gives us our second birth. Our first birth is by our father and mother, but our second birth is made possible by the spiritual master when we take initiation. And then, whatever the spiritual master says, we have to follow it. Well, what does he say? He's going to say, chant Hare Krishna 16 good rounds every day, and 16 is the minimum. There's no maximum. You can chant all day long for the rest of your life if you want, and there's no let's say rule that says you can't chant more than 16 rounds. But there is a rule that says you have to chant uh, minimum 16 rounds, good rounds every day. So the first birth is made by the actual father, and the second birth is made possible by the spiritual master. Okay, so that second birth by the spiritual master is more important than the first birth by a father, uh, because the spiritual master should be uh, the life and the instructions should be the life and soul of a devotee. So Prabhupada was teaching all his disciples to be completely surrendered to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and to the spiritual master. Those are considered the two rails that lead you back to the spiritual worlds. So you have a railroad, and the railroad, uh, the uh, uh, there are two rails, and they are uh, let's say what do you call
Parallel.
parallel rails. So therefore, there's your uh, the two rails are your father, your birth father, and the spiritual master. Now, let's say your father is not a devotee, then uh, whoever has introduced you to Krishna and whoever is your spiritual master. So you have the Vartma Pradakshika Guru, and that's the person who introduces you to Krishna consciousness. And then you have your initiating guru, or you have the guru that instructs you and the guru who initiates you. Those are two parallel rails that are helping you go back to Godhead. Okay, so it says here whatever the Father and the spiritual master order should be taken without argument. Yes, there should be no instance in which a disciple or the son says, "This is not correct. I cannot carry it out." When he says that, he is falling. The Father and the spiritual master are on the same platform because the spiritual master is the second father. Well, when Prabhupada and some of his disciples were watching the moon landing in 1969. They saw the moon landing on television. And when Prabhupada said, "I don't think they landed on the moon," some of the disciples left the movement. They couldn't accept that because they saw it with their eyes. Prabhupada and some of his disciples were watching the television and they saw the moon landing. And when Prabhupada said, "I don't think they landed on the moon," some of the disciples said, "Okay, now the Prabhupada is, completely wrong," and they left him. However, they made a big mistake because they did not land on the moon. The whole thing was staged. That's what Buzz Aldrin said. Buzz Aldrin was uh, the second, let's see, moon lander. Uh, the first one was Armstrong, and the second one was Buzz Aldrin. Buzz Aldrin, after some years, said, "We didn't really go to the moon. It was all staged." The And when Prabhupada said, "Well, I don't think they landed on the moon," some of the disciples said, "Oh, now we know he's nonsense. He doesn't know the old man doesn't know what he's talking about," and they left the movement. So, whatever the Father and the spiritual master order should be taken without argument. Yes. In other words, you should always say yes to the spiritual master. There should be no instance in which the disciple or the son says, "This is not correct. I cannot carry it out." When he says that, he is fallen. The Father and the spiritual master are on the same platform because a spiritual master is the second father. The higher, see, the first birth is a seminal birth, and the second birth is initiation by a bona fide spiritual master. And it says, if someone says, "No, this is not correct, what you say, I cannot carry it out, I cannot, follow your order," then when he says that, he is falling. The Father and the spiritual master are on the same platform because the spiritual master is the second father. The higher classes are called Dvija, twice born. Whenever there's a question of birth, there must be a father. The first birth is made possible by the actual father, and the second birth is made possible by the spiritual master. Sometimes the father and the spiritual master may be the same man, and sometimes they are different. In any case, the order of the father or the order of the spiritual master must be carried out without hesitation, with an immediate yes. There should be no argument. That is real service to the Father and to the spiritual master. Okay, this is unequivocal statements. In other words, something you cannot argue with. You have to accept it. All right. And that's why it says, uh, in any case, the order of the Father or the order of the spiritual master must be carried out without hesitation and with an immediate yes. There should be no argument. That is real service to the Father and to the spiritual master. All right. There aren't any questions about this.
So one question is, I think it was Shankarananda Prabhu. He was saying something about that you have to serve your spiritual master with all you have. Part of that is also intelligence. So obviously, you have to follow the instruction of the spiritual master, but when it comes to maybe, let's say, how to follow the instruction and so on, you still have to apply your intelligence, and may have to have a discussion with the spiritual master. Is that allowed, or is that just trying to understand? Like, is there like when we say yes, sir, is there a room for any discussion for clarifications, or?
Okay. That's a very good question. The spiritual master, in other words, bona fide spiritual master is not going to tell you, okay, climb up on top of this building and then jump to your death. He's not going to say something like that. If he does say something like that, then there can be some discussion. But generally, the spiritual master is very, very kind, and he's always happy to see the spiritual advancement of his disciple. However, Junior Haridas, he only looked once with lust for a woman, and nobody else knew this, but his spiritual master understood, and he said, "I never want to see Haridas again, the Junior Haridas again." And all the devotees you know, thought, oh, this is too extreme. You should, excuse him or forgive him. And Lord Chaitanya refused. And Junior Haridas committed suicide. And it frightened all the disciples of Lord Chaitanya. Why Lord Chaitanya was so adamant. His Junior Haridas, what did he do? He was a devotee of Lord Chaitanya. But one day he was asked to go and get, I think, huh? Oh,
Oh, I said some rice.
yes, special rice that uh, this one lady had. So when he went, the lady was an older lady, and but her daughter was standing next to her. So when Junior Haridas went and begged rice uh, from the mother, Junior Haridas, the daughter was standing next to the mother, and he looked at her with lust. Now, nobody could understand that, but Lord Chaitanya did because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's he's Paramatma. He's in the heart of everyone. So he understood that Junior Haridas was standing next to the mother, and I'm sorry, the daughter was standing next to the mother, and Junior Haridas looked or glanced at the daughter with lust. And Lord Chaitanya at that point understood. Nobody else could understand that, but he understood that. And he said that I never want to see him again. So, of course, um, the, the disciple was devastated. And many of the other disciples of Lord Chaitanya tried to convince him to forgive Junior Haridas, and Lord Chaitanya refused. And he threatened the devotees. He said, "Look, if you keep saying this, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm not going to, basically associate with you anymore." So when they said that, they got frightened. They didn't say anything after that. And then in Junior Haridas, he committed suicide. And Lord Chaitanya was satisfied with what he did. And then Junior Haridas became like a ghost, but he would come regularly and chant Hare Krishna for Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya was pleased. Now, the devotees didn't understand that. They weren't seeing Junior Haridas after he died chanting to Lord Chaitanya, but in the Shastra it says this is what happened. Now, fast forward to the time of Srila Prabhupada, there was a devotee uh, who was, one of the very famous and advanced devotees of Srila Prabhupada. And he was in a morning walk with Srila Prabhupada. And he asked Srila Prabhupada, what should a devotee do who's, you know, initiated, but who engages in illicit sex? And Prabhupada said, well, he should commit suicide. And the next thing you know, in a couple of days, that devotee committed suicide because he had committed illicit sex. And Prabhupada was simply repeating what is, uh, in the Shastra. He didn't know that that devotee that asked that question and was actually engaging in illicit sex. But he said then he should commit suicide. So, uh, if that devotee had admitted at that moment that he was engaging in illicit sex, Prabhupada would not have told him to commit suicide. He would have told him that, well, you have to stop this immediately, and you should take shelter from, again, very seriously, not break your vows, something like that. But the boy that said that, he didn't say anything, and a couple of days later he committed suicide. So uh, these are things that happen in, factually in life, uh, but breaking the rules and regulations that one makes at initiation and engaging in really abominable activities like having illicit sex after you promise at initiation not to do anything like that. That's very serious. And but one should admit what they're doing and get help from a spiritual master and from the devotees and not do it again. Uh, then one can be excused. But it cannot be a regular thing. Like you can't get excused like 5 times. In other words, it's like 1, 2, 3, and you're out. Right? You can excuse it once. You can excuse it maybe twice. Maybe you can excuse it 3 times. Or the fourth time, there's no excuse. Then that means that you're making it a habit of committing, very serious, uh, let's say, violations of the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness. And you can't make it a habit of wanting to be excused over and over again. Okay, so it says here, this verse that we're reading today, sons ought to render service to their father exactly to this extent. One should obey the command of his father or spiritual master with due deference. Deference means surrender, saying, yes, sir. So it doesn't say, no, sir. It says, yes, sir. I will follow whatever you say. So one time Prabhupada went to his father and he said, I don't like my wife. I want to marry another wife. And the father said, no, don't do that. And Prabhupada listened to him. And that was good. Actually, his father said, it's actually good you don't like your wife. And then, because at the moment of death, you won't be attached to her at all. They say. So uh, there's different ways of looking at things, but actually, devotees look at things from the point of view of what am I going to be doing at the moment of death? Am I going to be so attached to my wife that instead of thinking of Krishna, I'll be thinking of my wife at the moment of death? Well, then maybe I shouldn't marry a girl like that that's so attractive or so, let's say, mesmerizing that I can't get her out of my mind. Right? So that's why Prabhupada said as Prabhupada's father said, it's good you don't like your wife, that way you won't think of her at the moment of death. So, so that was good advice, and Prabhupada followed him. Okay, so it says here, one should obey the command of his father or spiritual master with due deference, meaning surrender, saying, yes, sir. Okay. Whatever the father and the spiritual master order should be taken without argument. Yes, there should be no instance in which the disciple or the son says, this is not correct. I cannot carry it out. When he says that, he is fallen. The father and the spiritual master are on the same platform because the spiritual master is the second father. The higher classes are called dvijas, twice born, Whenever there's a question of birth, there must be a father. The first birth is made possible by the actual father, and the second birth is made possible by the spiritual master. Yeah, when you get initiated. Sometimes the father and the spiritual master may be the same man, and sometimes they're different men. In any case, the order of the father or the order of the spiritual master must be carried out without hesitation and with an immediate yes. There should be no argument. That is real service to the father and to the spiritual master. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has stated that the order of the spiritual master is the life and soul of the disciple. As a man cannot separate his life from his body, a disciple cannot separate the order of the spiritual master from his life. If a disciple follows the instruction of the spiritual master in that way, he is sure to be perfect, become perfect. This is confirmed in the Upanishads. The import of Vedic instruction is revealed automatically only to one who has implicit faith. Implicit means complete faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and in the spiritual master. These are the two rails. In the railroad, there are two rails. So, in the same way, in spiritual life, there are two rails leading back to the spiritual world. That is, follow the instructions given to you by your father, and also you have to follow the instructions given to you by your spiritual master. However, what if your father says something different than your spiritual master? At that point, you can understand that you're. Now, this is something that I actually experienced. Where there was this one boy that joined the movement. He was, I think he came from a Muslim family. And when his mother found out that he joined the Hare Krishna movement, he called him and said, if you don't immediately come back home, I'm going to commit suicide. And the boy was shocked when she said that. And he told us, I have to go. And we said, why is that? He said, because I know my mother. She'll actually commit suicide if I don't go back home. Meaning, leave Krishna consciousness. And he left. Now, uh, did he do the right thing? Well, uh, no, he didn't do the right thing because his mother did not want him to become a member of the Hare Krishna movement. She wanted him to be a good Muslim. So what he could have done, however, if he asked advice, uh, I mean, the mother was a crazy fanatic. That's no doubt about that. But he could have gone back so she wouldn't commit suicide. And little by little, he could have come back to Krishna consciousness, you know. Uh, but he never came back again. So what did the mother do? She got him married right away to a nice Muslim girl, and that was the end of his Krishna consciousness. uh, so there are, fanatical parents like that sometimes. And when we said, "Well, what are you going to do?" He said, "Well, I have to go back because I know my mother. She will commit suicide if I don't." So these are hard decisions that have to be made uh, in life sometimes. Uh, he could have very well gone back to his mother and after some time leave again and join Krishna consciousness. But he didn't. He just went back, and like that was the end of his Krishna consciousness. So in life, there are certain situations that are very difficult to deal with, especially when you're dealing with, like, say, a Muslim mother who's a fanatic and who will commit suicide if you don't go back or give up Krishna consciousness. However, uh, one should, uh, you know, maybe not, in on such a order that the mother is giving. Maybe go back, but later on, when there's a chance, just leave finally. And if she wants to commit suicide, well, that's her problem. If so, it says that uh, the higher classes are called Dvija, twice born. Whenever there's a question of birth, there must be a father. The first birth is made possible by the actual father, and the second birth is made possible by the spiritual master. Sometimes the father and the spiritual master may be the same man, and sometimes they are different men. In any case, the order of the father or the order of the spiritual master must be carried out without hesitation, with an immediate yes. There should be no argument. That is real service to the father and to the spiritual master. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has stated that the order of the spiritual master is the life and soul of the disciples. As a man cannot separate his life from his body, a disciple cannot separate the order of the spiritual master from his life. If a disciple follows the instruction of the spiritual master in that way, he is sure to become perfect. This is confirmed in the Upanishads. The import of Vedic instruction is revealed automatically only to one who has implicit faith in the supreme personality of Godhead and in the spiritual master. One may be materially considered an illiterate man, but if he has faith in the spiritual master as well as in the supreme personality of Godhead, then the meaning of scriptural revelation is immediately manifested before him. That's a very amazing statement there. If uh, the devotee has faith in the spiritual master as well as in the supreme personality of Godhead, then the meaning of spiritual revelation is immediately manifested before him. Okay, that means that you're going to be able to see Krishna uh, by spiritual revelation. So that's why Krishna consciousness is not mundane uh, spirituality. It is revelation theology. That means that you can actually see Krishna when you become completely surrendered and follow strictly the spiritual master. So you learn by revelation, not by studying. People can be studious. They can read many books. They can study. They can even memorize. But spiritual knowledge is revelation theology. Things are revealed to the devotee by his complete surrender to the spiritual master and to Krishna. Now, uh, what does that mean exactly? Well, if you remain faithful, like for example, when Prabhupada was watching the moon landing with his disciples on television, after watching that, Prabhupada said, I don't think they landed on the moon. So some disciples decided to leave Prabhupada. They thought that he was talking nonsense. And some other disciples did not leave. There's a story once. There was a man who had disciples, and one of his disciples was a lady, was a girl, was a woman. So one day, he uh, told his disciples that let us take a walk. I want to see one lady. So they were a little surprised. So they take this walk and they come to the house of this lady who was a prostitute, a known prostitute. But her mother was a completely surrendered uh, devotee of the guru. So the guru comes to the house of the prostitute and tells his devotees, I'm going to go inside, you stay here. And he goes inside, and when the prostitute sees the guru, she falls down at his feet. She starts crying. She asks for forgiveness for her, bad uh, behavior. And the guru, but they close the door, and the guru says, "Look, I'm gonna stay here overnight. Uh, Give me one room that I can stay in. But before that, I want you to open a window. I mean, open the blinds of one of your windows, so people can see. And you get a bottle of wine, and you put it on a plate, and open the windows so people can see from the outside, and come and uh, act as if you're going to give it to me. So you put a glass of wine and a bottle of wine on a plate, and she goes like this, when the window's open, and then it looks like she's handing it to the guru, right? So the disciples see this, right? Then they close the window, and then the guru stays overnight, right? In a separate room, of course. The next morning, when the guru goes out, all the disciples have left except one. And the guru, one that's still there, he said, "So you did not leave?" He said, "No, Gurudev." He said, "I have no reason to leave." He said, uh, "Whatever you do, I am always going to remain loyal to you because I made a vow that I will follow your instructions. No meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication, always chanting Hare Krishna." So, I mean, that was like a severe test that the guru was doing about his disciples. So, out of all the disciples, there was only one that did not leave, and he stayed overnight, waiting till the next day to see, for his guru. Whereas all the others left, and he remained, it was like a test. Now that's like a severe test, and it's very difficult for people to understand. But that's a story that's. Uh, now I'm not saying it's a real story, but that's a story that sometimes uh, you might hear. So in that case, the guru tested his disciples, and it was a very severe test. Well, it's the same thing. The guru and his disciples, Prabhupada and his disciples, are watching the moon landing. And after watching, Prabhupada said, I don't think they landed on the moon. And then a bunch of disciples left. Not all of them, but a bunch of them left. They said, they thought Prabhupada didn't know what he's talking about. and therefore he can't be a bona fide guru because they have the proof. They saw it on television. So that's why it says here that uh, in any case, the order of the Father or the order of the spiritual master must be carried out without hesitation and with an immediate yes. There should be no argument. That is real service to the Father and to the spiritual master. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has stated that the order of the spiritual master is the life and soul of the disciple. As a man cannot separate his life from his body, the disciple cannot separate the order of the spiritual master from his life. If a disciple follows the instruction of the spiritual master in that way, he is sure to become perfect. This is confirmed in the Upanishads. The import of Vedic instruction is revealed automatically only to one who has implicit faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and in his spiritual master. One may be materially considered an illiterate man, but if he has faith in the spiritual master as well as in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the meaning of spiritual revelation is immediately manifested before him. Well, what does that mean? The meaning of scriptural revelation is immediately manifested before him. Well, we're reading scriptures every day. Does that mean that we understand everything we're reading? No, not necessarily. But if we have complete faith in the spiritual master as well as in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the meaning of scriptural revelation is immediately manifested before him. That means that in some mysterious way, we will be able to understand what we're reading or what we're hearing from the Shastra because of our implicit faith in the spiritual master and in Krishna. Those are the two rails leading us back to Godhead. That's why Prabhupada says one may be materially considered an illiterate man, but if he has faith in the spiritual master as well as in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the meaning of scriptural revelation is immediately manifested before him. So, this is a very big statement that he's making here, and it's something that we should meditate on. If we have implicit faith on the spiritual master and Krishna also, then the meaning of spiritual revelation, in other words, the words we're reading in Shastra, they become immediately manifested before us. So we can hear so many things, right, in lectures and so many things, you know, that we read, but it only becomes a part of our life and soul when we have complete faith in Krishna and the spiritual master. Otherwise, we may hear it, it goes in one ear, comes out the other ear. But if we have complete faith, then every statement of the spiritual master becomes our life and soul. So one day, long, long time ago, I was sitting down and taking some milk with banana in the milk. It was very delicious. You know, we would have that every night before we go to sleep. And we were sitting in our prasadam hall, and there was a lecture by Prabhupada that was playing, and it was being projected so everyone could hear also. And I was sitting next to someone, and we were talking, and at the same time hearing what Prabhupada was saying. And so, you don't completely pay attention because there's people are talking, and then you're talking to someone else. But at the same time, we were listening to the lecture. And at one point, Prabhupada said, and if you cannot follow the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness, then you will not be able to go back to Godhead. And then, so I stopped talking to the person who was sitting next to me. I said, "What did Prabhupada just say?" You know, uh, and the way he said it was, he said it really slowly at the end. Said, "Then you will not go back to God." And I got shocked when I heard that. And I said, "What did he just say?" And he said, "Who?" I said, "Prabhupada. What did he just say?" You know, uh, and I was like overwhelmed by that statement that he made. Then you will not go back to Godhead. So sometimes, as it says here, one may be materially considered an illiterate man, but if he has faith in the spiritual master as well as in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the meaning of scriptural revelation is immediately manifested before him. Okay, so when I heard this, we're in the hall, we're sitting down, we're eating prasadam. Well, actually, at that time, it was right before we go to sleep. So it was milk with banana in it. It's really, really nice, tasty. And we're talking and at the same time listening to this lecture of Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, and if you cannot become a devotee, uh, you will not go back to God. If you don't follow the regulative principles, you will not go back to Godhead. And I half heard it, and then it was over, and I got shocked. I said, "What did Prabhupada just say?" And he was speaking very slowly in a low, uh, you know, uh, he was not shouting it out. It was a very quiet type of speaking, and that was the end of the lecture. And it shocked me, right? And I couldn't get it out of my mind. Right? So one may be materially considered an illiterate man, but if he has faith in the spiritual master as well as in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the meaning of scriptural revelation is immediately manifested before him. So we should be very careful about hearing carefully every word that Prabhupada says and not deviate, because then we'll be able to understand the meaning of scriptural revelation that will immediately be manifested before us. So we're reading scripture every day. Does it mean that we understand it? Not necessarily. But if we have complete faith in Prabhupada as well as Krishna, then the meaning of scriptural revelation, in other words, this Bhagavad Gita is revelation theology. It's not simply academic. There's a difference between academically reading the book and revelation of what we're reading. There's a big difference between the two. So, but in order to have scriptural revelation, one has to have complete faith in the spiritual master and in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is what we should meditate on today. The meaning of that statement. That is, But if he, meaning the devotee, has faith in the spiritual master as well as in Supreme Personality Godhead, then the meaning of scriptural revelation is immediately manifested before him. Scriptural revelation. See, what we're reading every day is scripture, right? These are the purports of Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said his purports were his spiritual ecstasy. So we will enter into the spiritual ecstasy of Prabhupada when we have complete faith in Prabhupada and in Krishna. So that should be our meditation point for today. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. It's a very nice report.
There are a couple of
Questions.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this is Nirmala Prema Mataji.
Who?
Nirmala Prema Mataji.
Yeah.
Naresh. So she is asking, is committing suicide also a huge sin? Wondering why suicide is sin recommended for Shastra for illicit sex? Because, it seems like that's also a sin.
Well, suicide is a sin. But if a devotee violates the principles, should they commit suicide? That's the question, right?
Yeah, because why is it also recommended that as a kind of a repentance for illicit sex? Why is suicide recommended? Because it's also sin.
It's not recommended. Where is it recommended?
Actually, Prabhupada wouldn't have said that if it's not in Shastra, right?
Well, yes, so on a morning walk, this one devotee asked Prabhupada, what should a devotee do if he breaks it, if he has illicit sex after being initiated and making vows and so forth? And he said, should he commit suicide? And Prabhupada said, yes. So that devotee had engaged in illicit sex, and he was a very, very famous devotee, very, very, let's say, so-called very advanced devotee, and he committed suicide. So uh, it's not, committing suicide is not a solution to the problem. It just puts you in a much worse condition. The real thing is to admit to the spiritual master the violation that you've committed to your vows, spiritual vows, and get the advice of the spiritual master what you should do. But if you just say, well, I had illicit sex, therefore I should kill myself, that and okay, so that's a violation of your vows of initiation. So you vow when you become initiated, you don't do anything without asking your spiritual master. That's so it's not that you have a right to kill yourself. There was one devotee of Lord Chaitanya, and he had decided to kill himself, commit suicide, fall under the wheels of the Rath Yatra cart. Uh, and Lord Chaitanya stopped him, and he said, "Look, your body belongs to me, and I have to do many things through your body, so you don't have a right to kill yourself." And he stopped him.
Mm-hmm.
So once you're initiated, before you do anything, especially something very important in your life, you should get the permission of the spiritual master. You shouldn't just say, well, Junior Haridas, he committed suicide, I'll commit suicide. No. Whatever you do, you have to first get the permission of the spiritual master. Otherwise, you're not actually a good disciple. So, uh, such as committing, wanting to commit suicide, you should definitely ask the advice of the spiritual master before you do something like that. So, but to just go ahead and do anything without getting permission from the spiritual master is a violation of the disciples, let's say, vow. The vows that we take at initiation: no meat eating, no gaming, no illicit sex, no intoxication, and then chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra every day, the minimum 16 good rounds. And also, it's understood that we will not do anything without getting the permission of the spiritual master. It is understood that we will always ask the permission of the spiritual master before we do something.
Yes. And I think Sankarshan Prabhuji told story about the devotee committing suicide. He heard some more detail about that disciple walking away before Prabhupada's full explanation of what should be done. So, Prabhu, you wanted to explain? Are you on the call still? Hare Krishna.
The way I heard the account was that another devotee who was present on that morning walk is actually a good friend of the devotee who ended up committing suicide. He said that Prabhupada initially said the person should commit suicide, but then he continued saying further that it's best just to continue practicing devotional service. And but the devotee who committed suicide, he walked away after Prabhupada's initial response, and he didn't hear the second part, that you should just keep practicing devotional service. And that's the response, the comment Prabhupada made in the Gajendra pastime in the Srimad Bhagavatam purport, that, someone can't keep sannyas, better just to become a grihasta and continue with the battle of fighting Maya and not I don't know if he mentioned suicide in that part, but he did say in that section that the devotee should continue the fight against Maya, not just give up. That was his purport of the Srimad Bhagavatam part.
Yeah, and thank you for that. What you just said. In other words, whatever we're going to do, we should first get permission from the spiritual master. Even if the spiritual master says, if you commit illicit sex, you commit suicide. When Lord Chaitanya found out that the junior Haridas was going to commit suicide, he said, your body belongs to me, and I have many things to do through your body. You cannot. It wasn't Junior Haridas. It was Sanatan Goswami, I think, because he had these stores all over his body, and he was thinking of committing suicide by jumping under the wheels of the Rath Yatra car. And Lord Chaitanya said, "You cannot do this because there are many things I have to do, and some of those things I have to do through your body. So your body belongs to me, and you cannot do something like this." Uh, so, yeah, that's the way we have to see things. You get initiated. Now, everything we have belongs to the spiritual master, including our body. Therefore, we cannot make any decisions on our own. We have to have the permission of the spiritual master before we act. And that is the meaning of initiation. You get initiated. From that point on, you'll never do anything without asking the permission of the spiritual master. So we have to take that vow seriously. We just can't make our own personal decisions from the point that we get initiated. Haribol. So even though Lord Chaitanya said, he should commit suicide, you have to ask permission to do anything. You don't just go ahead. Or when Prabhupada said, one should commit suicide if they engage in illicit sex after being initiated. But even if you contemplate wanting to commit suicide, you still have to ask permission to your spiritual master, or you just can't go ahead and do something.
That's a whimsical decision still. But
Yeah. Okay, so therefore it says sometimes the father and the spiritual master may be the same man, and sometimes they're different men. In any case, the order of the father or the order of the spiritual master must be carried out without hesitation, with an immediate yes. There should be no argument. Well, yeah, but you have to tell the spiritual master what you're planning to do. You can't just make the decision on your own, because your body now belongs to Krishna and the spiritual master. So you just can't make decisions on your own. Haribol. Oh,
Okay, Krishna. There are no more questions or comments. We'll end the session.